Hi, welcome back to the garden. Today is Monday, May 8th. Let's talk about pruning tomatoes. Okay, so this one's pretty tall. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and pinch off some of these lower leaves. Now when you pinch one off, you do not want to half do it and pull down on the stem. That'll damage it and it'll kill it. And that leaves about 4 or 5 really nice leaves. So does that mean I'm going to have to dig a hole that deep? Well, you can, or you can try this. Come on, let's plant. Okay, like we measured with our string, we want the tomato to come up basically in line with this pole. But it's good and long, and I don't really want to dig a great big deep hole. So I'm going to come off to the side. Make sure you're out of the mulch. And I'm going to dig a pretty decent little hole on an angle. With that angle winding up right here in front of this pole. That's the way I like to do it. You were here when we planted these. So you just set that in there, and that's close enough to being in line. And that's how you plant a big tomato or a leggy tomato. Now is a critical time. We need to start pruning. This little guy had some frost damage on him also. And right here, you can see that died back. But on this one, we're going to remove everything that's low. We're just going to take it all off. We got a sucker coming up below ground level. We want to remove that. Pinch off this little sucker that's kind of growing. And it's wanting to split. When it gets frost damage, it can do some weird things. But I think this has a chance now. Now this one's thriving. This one made it through the frost with no problem. Let's go ahead and clip these off. And if you remember, we planted this on its side, so it's got some really strong, healthy roots down in there. Let's see. And I'm going to go ahead and take this next leaf. It's got a little bit of brown at the end, and it'll be touching the ground shortly. Same with this leaf. That leaves plenty of foliage for photosynthesis and for it to continue to grow. But it's going to be flowering here pretty quick. Right here's a great example of why we don't want the leaves touching the ground. See, they're already turning brown. Right here off the main stem and this leaf, we have a sucker. So it's time to prune. So we're going to take the leaf off and we're going to take that sucker off. Just toss it out in the deep mulch. We also have a sucker right here coming from ground level where we pinched off one of the original leaves. Clip that out. Over here on the other side, we've got the same situation going on. Take out the sucker and the leaf. Now nothing's touching the ground, but we want to keep looking because this thing's awful bushy, which means we've got another sucker here. We'll take that out. Got another one here, take that out. This thing's loaded with suckers. We got another one here. It seems dramatic, but the plant will be much healthier with the suckers removed. Now look at the growth on this one since we planted it. This leaf here is touching the ground, and we've got a sucker in there. But we've got a couple little suckers started in a couple spots. It won't hurt if you take that sucker out and take that leaf off for good measure, because it will be touching the ground shortly. And then just go through and you can pinch them with your fingernails. Nice clean pinch, and take those suckers out. It's that easy. But you see right here, you've got a leaf, the main stem, and this sucker is big. And we want to remove it because we also have flowers coming on. I'm going to take that sucker off. The rest of these are leaves. This leaf over here is actually touching the ground, so we'll remove it. And just to balance it out, let's go ahead and remove that leaf. Now we've cleaned this up, and it'll put the energy into making tomatoes and to continue to grow. Now what we got going on with this next one is this leaf is really close to the ground. It's got a little sucker. We can clip them both off. As you can see, we've got a couple little white spots here. We do not want that moving up the plant. So just keep inspecting. And I just like taking these lower ones off just for good measure. They'll be touching the ground pretty quick anyhow. And right now is the time to get any of those suckers out, because once they start really going, that's when you're going to have trouble with your tomatoes. And it's just a good idea to look at all your tomatoes. This one here is not touching the ground. It doesn't have any suckers, but it's yellowing a little bit. So it doesn't need that stress. So we're just going to clip both of those off. Out into the mulch. Same thing with this partner over here. While we're doing this, it's okay to take those lower leaves off. And on through here, anything that's got damage to it or is discolored, these lower leaves, while you're pruning the first time, just go ahead and remove them. You're just going to help the plant out. Remember though, when you're pruning, do not take the top off. It will stop it from growing, whether it's determinate or indeterminate.
So that's our first line. I only have about 70 more to do, but this gives you a nice cross section of things that you'll see the first time you go to prune. There's one or two of these I want to take a look at, but I got something else to show you.
Now, we planted buckwheat just the other day. And beets. And a couple kinds of lettuce. None of these are touching the ground, but they do have a little stress of being transplanted and then it turning off really hot. These are really big. You see all the little holes here? I got a better example. This one right here. That's not disease, that's little flea beetles. We just had our 4th praying mantis hatch, and they're out here. So there's sort of a race right now between the tomatoes growing, the praying mantis growing, or the flea beetles eating everything. Now you can do this too. It's pretty simple. It just takes a few minutes. Next thing you know, we're going to have the trellis lines down and we're going to start trellising these. If you want to learn more about tomatoes, click that link right there and I'll meet you back in the garden. If you want to learn about the deep mulch, click that link right there and I'll meet you back in the garden. And until next time, remember, take care of yourself, take care of your family, and God bless you. Come on, let's plant.
Let's go plant garden.